So before we get into the video, just a quick little story time. I'd like you to imagine that you only have $100 to spend for the week, but your children really want to see How to Train Your Dragon. It wouldn't be an issue except that the only showtime available is in IMAX 3D. So your money vanishes, flies away, it retracts like Toothless retracting his teeth. What would you do in that situation? Would you say no and save the money? Or would you pay for an experience that you never forget? I was too young to realize it at the time, but my parents willingly spent the budget they had for the week for the sake of my brother and I to see How to Train Your Dragon in IMAX 3D. So to this day, 15 years later, my dad still talks about the story and he mentions how much those $100 were worth it. Put simply, you can't put a price on an experience. So with that in mind, let's go over some of the priceless psychological lessons in How to Train Your Dragon. First off, inventing. So if you're like me, you probably relate to Hiccup in a couple ways. One, having a squeaky voice.
I just want to be one of you guys.
But also when it comes to your love of creating things.
Will throw it for me.
And I think it was cool how this message of inventing was presented to children in this movie. Here are some of the psychological benefits that come with inventing. Enhance mental health via creative outlet. Creative activities, including inventing, can help reduce stress and anxiety. The intense focus on a task can lead to a flow state, allowing individuals to enter a state of deep engagement and relaxation. So for me, I like creating things in general because it's a way to turn my stress side off. There's something therapeutic about having a vision and then seeing it come to life or breathing life into it. It's like putting the final piece of a mental puzzle in your head. In harmony with having creative outlet, there's also improved problem solving and cognitive flexibility. Inventing encourages thinking outside the box and approaching challenges from different angles. This strengthens neural connections and promotes flexible thinking, which can be useful in navigating various aspects of life. So I like this because if you're like me, you're probably a catastrophist. You have your head on a swivel, predict future problems. Inventing, or really just creating in general, allows you to take that problem-solving energy and put it to good use instead of having ambient anxiety about what could or what could not happen. So I like that. And then finally, inventing provides an outlet for processing and expressing emotions, especially those that are difficult to articulate verbally. Turning negative experiences or frustrations into something tangible and meaningful can foster a sense of resilience and psychological well-being. And in all seriousness, this is like why I content create. I connect through characters who go through similar struggles in shows and TVs. Hence, I like to demonstrate psychological life lessons through fitness and fandoms. Anyway, now speaking of approaching challenges, that takes us to the second part, which is probably my favorite part of the movie, prosthetics. So I think there's a touching message for victims who have suffered injuries and who now have disabilities that make everyday life feel like a struggle. As someone who grew up with both legs, they had to be surgically broken and re-straightened. I've had 7+ surgeries, but I definitely relate to Toothless, feeling like you don't have the freedom you once had. However, Hiccup invented inventions that highlight the beauty of prosthetics. As a side note, when he's creating the tail, I don't know, I always found this scene to be very entertaining, especially when I was a kid, even though I didn't know what was going on. It always just felt like a Mr. Beast video, the way it kept my attention. But anyways, this scene shows Hiccup designing a prosthetic tail. The meaning of prosthetic, or here's a loose definition of the meaning, is an artificial device used to replace a missing or dysfunctional body part. They can be external, worn on the outside like a prosthetic limb, or internal, surgically implanted like a joint replacement. And here are some of the many pros that come with prosthetics. Restored mobility, increased sense of dependence and self-sufficiency, basically being able to do stuff by yourself, enhanced functionality, improved balance and stability, and musculoskeletal health. And this takes us to probably my favorite part of the video. I just learned about this. A man named Casey Mitchell, who was an amputee vet, became the first amputee to compete in a full powerlifting competition. So get this. He squatted 435 pounds, he benched 424 pounds, and then he deadlifted 600 pounds with a prosthetic leg. He did all that despite not having a physical leg. So, I mean, it's just like, I'm at a loss of words. It's very uplifting because even if you were to lose a leg or a limb, you'd be amazed at how the body can adapt. More on that later. In harmony with the physical, practical benefits that come with prosthetic, there's also psychological benefits, emotional healing. You don't feel like you're completely lost or without hope, and helps individuals adapt to their new circumstances and to their new body image. There's also social reintegration. Basically, prosthetics can help individuals feel more engaged in social activities and connect with others, and that can reduce feelings of isolation, and there's also reduced pain and improve mood. Studies show that prosthetics can help alleviate pain and combat feelings of loneliness and depression that accompany limb loss. Even Toothless is an example of something that went from an intimidating monster to a teddy bear due to his prosthetic tail and the time that he spent with Hiccup. And speaking of Toothless, I would get a lot of dislikes if I didn't mention Toothless. So while rewatching and just researching different dynamics between characters, something came to mind that Hiccup said.
I wouldn't kill him because he looked as frightened as I was.
So that's the third part, which is basically a mistaken belief. There's a mistaken belief about dragons in this movie, thinking that all they are killers and nothing more. But this reminds me of how some predators or dangerous animals are viewed in the real world. We've all heard the saying, it's more scared of you than you are of it. And that's why, statistically speaking, you're more likely to be struck by lightning than bitten by a shark. This is just a quick little PSA. I grew up watching Jaws. I love sharks, but the chances of actually being bitten by a shark are very small. 1 to 3.7 million, compared to other animal encounters, natural disasters, and oceanside dangers. Many more people drown in the ocean every year than are bitten by sharks. Few bites that occur every year are an excellent indication that sharks do not feed on humans, and that most bites are simply due to mistaken identity. I love sharks with a passion. Their eyesight's trash, I'm sorry. So when a shark is swimming up and it sees an oval shape, it's probably thinking that it's a seal or a sea lion, when in reality, every now and then it's a surfer. Sharks are liable to legit bite you, then spit you out. Like, they'll spit you out like they're at a restaurant and their steak is undercooked. I mean, bad analogy, but you know. I use sharks as an example, but this is a reoccurring thing with a lot of predators. I actually learned this term called anthropophobia. This term can refer to the fear of humans by animals. And most of the time, this is the case. Another story time, my uncle, he opened up the garage door. He lives in Florida, opened up the door, alligator was there, he ran inside, the alligator ran away from him. Just an example, but I think this movie gave a more realistic view of predators. In this case, it mentions dragons, but not to sound like a tree hugger, but most predators aren't looking to eat humans. It's just a common misconception. That's why some alligators run away from people. That's why some dogs can chase bears away. That's why some lions that look deathly will like jump up and hug and lick you like they're a puppy. So even the mistaken belief of people is shown in this movie. Hiccup thought he had to be a killer in order to be a Viking. That wasn't true. Astrid isn't the typical female character. She often saves Hiccup and is basically like muscle of the relationship.
Ow! Why would you do that?
That's for the lies. That's for everything else.
And even Hiccup's father came to understand that Hiccup's all this was what the village needed in order to thrive and survive.
You just gestured all of me.
What's his name? Hiccup's father? I think it's Stoic. Hiccup's father's name. Stoic, yeah. Actually, got some Stoic action going on. Stoic learned that all that was what the village needed. As said by Émile Zola, hopefully I said that right, people are similar to books. Most people only see our cover. The minority read only the introduction. Many people believe the critics. Few will know our content. So I think that's wonderfully shown by this mistaken belief of dragons, which of course you turned around. And also I think it's really cool how everything comes full circle in an inverse way. Dragons go from pests to pets. Toothless goes from a killer to like a best friend. Hiccup and Toothless are nice, like mirroring of each other. Both go from vastly different circumstances. Toothless goes from an outcast to more of a leader. Hiccup goes from an outcast to more of a leader. Even both of them end up having a prosthetic limb, so it's very cool how Hiccup and Toothless mirror each other. Is a live action necessary? No. Am I gonna see it? Yeah. I mean, I have no objections to it, so yeah. Let me know your thoughts down below if you enjoyed the movie or what thoughts you have as far as live action. As I will say for all these videos, remember this is just a personal trainer geeking out over a fandom. Take everything I say as a gram of protein. So that's pretty much it. As always, remember to stay mentally fit, emotionally fit, and physically fit. And I will see you all in the next video.